Hello everyone and welcome back on my YouTube channel. Currently the Rc Championship in which I'm taking part regularly are on summer break. This allows me to have a bit of more free time and to film some different content. Last season, each time that I was having a bit of free time, I was sharing with you my technical knowledge, and I want to do the same this year. So the topic of today's video are going to be the differentials. I will try my best to explain in the best possible way to you this topic, and I'm going to divide this video into parts. In the first part, we are going to talk in a theoretical way about the differentials in order to understand how they are made and how we can set up them in order to adapt them to our driving style. And in the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how I used to clean them and to put the differential oil inside them. In RC car we have the front differential, the center differential and the rear differential. In the case we are talking of a four-wheel drive RC model. In my case, I just use the front and the rear differential, and in the center I use a slippery clutch. Shortly, the center differential allows you to balance the power between the front and rear axle. The main component of a differential are the gears that we find inside them. In our RC models we have the spider gears, and because of that we can call our differential an open differential. What it means? An open differential works in a way that once he receives the power from the drivetrain, this power is driven to the part of the differential that has the least amount of resistance. Talking about our wheels, when we give power to our RC model, this power is going to be redirected to the wheel, to the tire that has in that moment the lowest amount of grip. So let's say this is the main problem of our differentials, and because of that we use the differential oils. The differential oils has a gradation that starts, say, from 1000 and can go up till 100 of 1000. A differential oil that has a 1000 gradation, it's called, let's say, a lighter oil, and a differential oil that has, let's say, a 10,000 gradation, we are going to call it a thicker oil, a heavier oil. It means that it creates a higher resistance between the gears inside our differential. So let's take again my RC model and let's focus on the front and rear differential. Till this part of this video, we have understood that the differentials works in a way that the power is going to be driven to the tire that has the least amount of grip, and through the viscosity of the differentials oil, we are able, let's say, to adjust this value and to play, let's say, with the distribution of the power between the two wheels. Of course, the front and rear differential, they works in a different way. Let me explain. Talking about the front differential, if we put a thicker oil with a higher viscosity, we are going to have more on power steering. What it means that exiting a corner, giving power, both of the wheels are going to grip, let's say, together, and this is going to help us to exit the corner in a more clean and easier way. But from the other side, with a higher viscosity in the front, what's going to happen is that we can have a less drivable RC model entering a corner. So let's say that if we have a surface with low grip and we have, let's say, 10,000 oil in the front, so with a higher viscosity, we can suffer of understeer. So there's always, let's say, a game of balance. Now let's talk about the rear differential. What's going to happen if we put a higher viscosity oil in the rear is that this power is going to, let's say, be distributed more equally between the left and the rear tire. We are going to have a greater acceleration, but the car can suffer of oversteer. So How to make it works correctly? First of all, if you are a beginner, what I can suggest you is to start with a very low amount of viscosity. Let's say 2000 in the front and 1000 in the rear. This is going to make the car easy to drive. We are not going to have a lot of understeer because we have a thicker oil in the front and a lighter in the rear. And then if you want to have, let's say, an average setup as a beginner, I can suggest you 5000 in the front and 2000 in the rear. Let's say this is for the basic part of this kind of setups. And then you can play, you can test a lot of solutions. 1 year ago, when I was driving my Tamiya XV01, I was using on tarmac something like 10,000, 3,000 only on high grip conditions. Then if I was still racing on tarmac but the conditions were not so grippy, I was using 8,000, 2,000 and so on. Off-road I was using 5,000, 2,000. This year I have a different car that behaves completely differently, comparing it to the Tamiya XV01, different weight distribution, different components. Currently I'm using a 5000 oil in the front and 8000 in the rear. I like this combination because the rear of this RC model is very stable, and this allows me to have a higher viscosity in the rear and a lighter in the front. Of course I need to be careful while driving, but in each occasions when I have very tight corners, I can approach this corner giving gas and making the rear to slide in order to rotate the car faster. As I showed you in my last RC Rally race that I can put somewhere here. From the third stage, if I remember correctly, it started to rain. I was suffering with a lot of understeer, but thanks to this, let's say, different driving style, using the rear in order to make the car rotate, I was able to be very competitive and to win those kind of stages. Okay, I think that's all for this theoretical part of this video. I hope that I said everything in the correct way. If you have any additional questions, just leave a comment and I will do my best in order to answer you. And now let's pass to the second part of this video, where I'm going to show you how I used to clean the differentials and how I used to fill them. I do a complete maintenance of the differentials, usually each 2 rallies, and in between these rallies I have also some trainings. You can understand that it's time to do the maintenance of the differential once that rotating the wheels you feel that, let's say, they are too light. So once that we have our differential in our hands, before disassembling it, it's very important to check the differential caps. If we see some oil leaking from there and your differentials are not new, it means that it's time to check and change the O-ring inside them. Changing the O-rings and having new ones is very important because in this way the oil is not going to spill out and you will not be obligated to refill them quite often. So now let's disassemble our differential, and if you have plastic gears, just use some paper towel in order to remove the old oil, or in my case, if you have metal differential gears, I used to clean them with the brake cleaner. Be careful, don't put any brake cleaner inside the differential case, just use some paper towel, because maybe it can happen that you're going to damage the plastic or the O-rings that are left inside the differential case. Once everything is clean and shiny, let's assemble our differential and let's fill it with oil. I used to help myself in order to be as much precise as possible using a digital scale. The X-ray manual suggests us to put 1.32 grams of oil. Not all manufacturers provide this kind of value, but they just suggest you to put the oil above the gears, which is correct, because be careful to don't overfill your differentials, otherwise the oil is going to leak and they're not going to work properly. But what I'm going to suggest you is to use also a digital scale to feel the differentials above the spider gears, and then to fill the same amount of oil also in the front or rear differentials. After filling the differential with the oil, just let's wait a bit in order to make the oil settle inside the differential case, and after that reassemble the differentials, tightening the screws. And that's all. I really hope that I was able to explain to you this topic in a clear and easy way. Have fun with your differentials, tune them in the best possible way, and see you next week with a new video. Ciao!